right? But fundamentally, we are hoping that it will make them faster, more agile, more flexible, and more focused on innovation to compete with new space.
I feel like everybody should give their view on this. Jean-François, do you want to give your view on Bromo?
Well, you should ask Airbus and Thales. They are in the room. But no, I mean, we understand Bromo, and we believe it makes a lot of sense. I mean, nonetheless, I mean, we have the same, eventually, worries than Adel was just explaining. I mean, we hope that this is not going to be, and we know that mergers are complex periods, so we need both companies to be really up to the promises. I mean, we also have not only a few geostationary satellites, but we have, as you've seen and read in the press, we have just ordered 440 LEO satellites to Airbus, and we are engaged with those two companies, not the only ones, but with those two companies in IRIS², and we will come back to that. This is absolutely fundamental for Europe. I mean, I believe we are at the turning points of what Europe can do in terms of LEO constellations or multi-orbit constellations. This is a critical moment, 2026.
Luis, can I get your thoughts on Bromo?
No, nothing to add to what they have said. It's all about transforming the way in which we work. So if Bromo is able to do that, that's fine with us.
Okay. Jean-François, I want to read a quote from 2025. The European space industry needs to understand that it's being challenged by players who play by different rules. We need to take more risks. We need to act faster. We need to change our mindset, our culture. That may be the hardest part. Pop quiz, who said that?
No, yes, I believe
it was you that said that, by the way.
That, as you know,
is that happening? Is the hardest part on the culture
as you know,
happening?
Eutelsat, we are running OneWeb, which is today, there are 2 low orbit constellations flying, existing, being operational on the planet. There is the one of our competitor, Starlink, and ours. We are doing well. There is a huge demand on LEO. Nonetheless, I mean, we see what's happening in the US, obviously with Starlink, but also with Amazon. I mean, I guess we'll talk about that later. And we really believe we need to go faster, quicker, and we will come back to that. I mean, there is a risk that we see happening in Europe, is the risk of fragmentation. I think as Europeans, we really need to get together. I mean, the amounts that these constellations are needing in terms of financement are quite immense. We have one project which is absolutely critical for us Europeans, which is IRIS². We are going to go back on this project, I guess, on this panel. We need to make sure that this is going to succeed. The risk, big risk, would be some of the countries going their own way. And you know, this is the complexity of Europe. We understand the reasons of that, these ideas also, because we are a federation, not yet a federation. We are single countries, single sovereign countries, and there is always the temptation to build your own constellation. But there is always one number that I'm giving to the people that I'm talking to. I mean, I've joined Eutelsat 6 months ago. The first things I've been doing is looking at the capital invested on OneWeb before Eutelsat acquired it. Total capital invested in OneWeb, $7 billion, 7 years before the project became operational. Because this is not only putting a number of hundreds of satellites in orbit, this is also building what is called the ground. So we, for instance, have 41 locations across the planet, fields of 8 to 12 antennas connected by a big fiber backbone across the globe. That took a long time to build. There is always the entire system, not only the satellites, but the antennas, so-called the UTs, the core network. I mean, so these systems are first deep tech, bloody complex, and are necessitating huge investments.
You used to work in Orange, correct? And
correct.
What kind of lessons that we can learn from that sector that you could apply to IRIS², for example? Good or bad lessons, mistakes or great things?
I think it's a very different sector. The big difference between the telco sector is that there is no interoperability between constellations, broadband constellation. There is, nothing is being, basically, everything is proprietary. This is really deep tech. I mean, the LEO constellations, as you all know, are satellites that are Our satellites are turning around the Earth in less than 2 hours, so these objects are flying very fast. The flat panels are phased array antennas, also deep tech systems. I mean, these flat panels are following satellites, going all the directions all the time. These are placed on planes, on trains, moving themselves, the objects moving themselves very fast. So again, I mean, this is really deep tech. This is proprietary, and this makes a big difference between our sector and the telecom sector, where, I mean, as you know, 5G is normalized, 5G is interoperable everywhere. I'm talking about 5G, 2G, 3G, 4G was.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not the case in the space business, and therefore there are huge barriers to entry in these low orbit telecom constellations. Again, you need multi-billion dollars, if not to say multi-billion euros, to build a constellation. You need multi-billion euros to keep the constellation alive. This is why we just recapitalized Eutelsat, and I thank our shareholder by 1.5 billion in order to be able to keep the constellation operational until the arrival of I2. I insist on that because, again, I mean, the risk we have in Europe is go fragmented, and that would be pitiful.
It was talked about a lot. Let's talk about that, the risks. Then, Jeremy, come over to you. What would be the main risks you would perceive at the moment to RS²?
Well, first thing I want to say is that there is, I think RS² is almost existential for Europe. So I truly believe there is no way back. So there is no risk that we stop this project. I want to make it very clear. There are many risks in terms of program implementation, and I don't want to go in some detail, but if I have to choose one, which I think we need to put more effort on is that when the system is ready, there are user terminals that are ready, that are cost-effective, cheap, easy to use, easy to deploy, open ecosystem, enabling a larger economic impact in Europe. If we miss this one, that would be a bit of a political kind of failure. And I think we need to discuss with the member states to aggregate the needs and find effect of scale so that we can use IRIS² in the most cost-efficient manner.
Possibly a beginner question for me. Apologies to everybody. Who's going to make the ground terminals?
So we are talking about user terminal.
User terminal, sorry.
We are going for a completely different strategy. Jean-François was mentioning the current approaches. You have basically two approaches today. You have the verticalized Starlink, Amazon Leo kind of approach where they do themselves the user terminal. They have a few numbers, but they are having huge effect of scale, so they can sell them at a low price. But it's completely locked environment. You have the legacy, what I would call horizontally integrated operator, like we have here on the table, who are basically depending on quite a variety of user terminal, I would say, that are very dependent on use cases, but that cannot reach sufficient effect of scale. Sometimes there can be a bit of some kind of IP vendor lock-in as well. So we don't get to the number, we don't get to the conditions to get low cost. So I think the strategy for IRIS² is to do the best of the two worlds by first opening the ecosystem, meaning it's not going to be a closed ecosystem. It will be open, published ICDs for everybody to build, and hopefully we have in Europe the supply chain sufficiently aggregated to make things in large number at a very low cost.
Guillermo, can I come to you with this question of risks to RS²? Obviously, Jeremy's outlined it's not going to be cancelled. But what would you consider from ESA's point of view?
First, I would like to be a little bit positive on what we are doing. So we have been for years leaders in the geo market. We have done MEOs. There are constellations based on MEOs. We have constellations in LEOs. So in Europe, we have the capacity to do these things. So there is no big issue. So we have chosen the multi-orbit constellation in order to avoid launching 30,000 LEOs, which introduces a certain number of problems difficult to solve, and where models, business models need to be developed that are not the ones we have today here in the stage and in other countries, in other companies, sorry. So technologically, we are there. The problem is the time. So we are trying to do this in less than 2-3 years. So we want to have a constellation providing services for hardcore commercial in less than 3 years. And this is vital for governmental aspects, but also for commercial aspects. And it is here where you have the technological problem. We can solve whatever problem, we just need a little bit more time. So which are the areas that are today popping up of what we are saying in the studies we are doing with our colleagues of SpaceRISE Commission and our teams in ESA? So we are really focusing and going down to the very basic problems that are complex. We are talking about user terminals. We are talking also about payloads, difficult to build in 29. Most of the critical paths we are having today are in the chipsets that we are going to be using. It's a problem of power, it's a problem of size, it's a problem of consumption. And this is an area where we are needing a little bit more time to develop. And this is for sure, in my point of view, the most critical one. And this applies to both payload and user terminals. User terminals, small, cost-effective, same problem, same type of technology that we need to develop. This is the 7 nanometer and below ASIC solutions. And this is today the critical path, and we are facing what we are facing today in the development.
What solutions do you see to the chip problem? I mean, if you read my Twitter feed, basically every chip ever made in the next couple of years is going to go to AI, and nobody's going to be able to buy a computer practically. Whatever.
The solutions we are looking for today are based on versioning. It is extremely difficult to short-term much more than what we are doing in the cycle of development. We need to design, we need to prove it is working, we need to launch the procurement of all these things and also the production. So the best way today for IRIS² to fly in 29 is to begin to think on versioning. And this is very important. I think there were other panels today talking about versioning, something we are discussing since months. So we need to introduce a certain versioning, introducing chipsets or solutions already existing, even if it is not perfect. It's already very good what we have today for most of the services we are looking for. Another area that we never talk, but it remains at the end always the critical path, is the ground segment complexity. Multi-orbital solutions require orchestration. Common orchestration is a complex. We saw in the traffic models of each of the companies totally different needs. Some need latency, some need capacity. It's not the same. So different services, different orbital layers. The orchestration of all this is going to be a very complex issue. By using 5G, we are sorting part of the problem. The nodes are more or less auto-orchestrated, but we are having now flying nodes, different orbits, different services. The definition of this ground system capable to optimize all this is a very complex issue. We are just launching the procurement of this ground segment, and we are going to see for sure, I'm sure it's going to be one of the critical aspects to reach 2029.
Can you get anybody want to feed back on some of those points there made about availability of chips, ground segment, etc.?
Well, in terms of ground segment, which is under the responsibility of Hispasat in the SpaceRISE Consortium, I think that we still have to understand what will be the complete definition of the system architecture, and certainly we'll have to prioritize the service part of the ground segment, because this is what will be the really innovative thing here. So we need to provide the service to the user in a way which is transparent to the layer, to the constellation layer that we are using, whether it is MEO or LEO, and that's an important part. On the other hand, we also need to pay special attention to the user terminals in this. I mean, we should not forget that part of the success of the constellation will be being able to deliver the service in a competitive way, and this will depend very much on the cost of the terminals. So I think that in the past we have not paid enough attention to this, and then we have failed to deliver at the right cost, in the right quantity, and on time to the end users. And this is crucial to the success of the constellation there.
If you have so many questions, as you outlined, questions in your head about this, how can we keep to the timelines of getting to services by 2030?
I don't have a clear answer to that. I'm just landing, so I don't have all the information that I would need to give you a sensible answer to that.
Okay, Adel, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah. Well, look, so no comments on the colleagues' points earlier. The definition of the system is well defined. Specs are well defined. Requirements, governmental, commercial, they're all well defined, right? It is really about how can we execute on these specifications and be in space in 2029. And I think the points about we're beginning to learn is, well, maybe we do need to go into an iterative approach, right? Maybe we do need to have a first version, a second version, a third version, instead of waiting for the third version, which is ultimately what we all want.
Right.
Right, and that's what we're trying to get our heads around. Like, how do we do that, and how do we?
Are you saying that Europeans have a bit of a difficulty with that?
No, not Europeans. Look, this is, it's typical in space.
Yeah.
The design of a constellation or a satellite typically takes, design, development, and manufacturing takes between 5 to 7 years, which is not competitive anymore. This is dead, right? If you continue to run your business on a 5 to 7 year cycles, you are not going to be successful. We see it in the market today, right? While we think about the constellation, our competitors are bringing new one in and offering services. So the traditional way of designing, developing, manufacturing has this idea of a waterfall development that wants to encompass all of the requirements and wants to grab them and do them right with the experience and capabilities and space-proven technologies, et cetera. And that takes time. It just takes time, right?
Can you give us a couple of insights on maybe some of the frictions inside the SpaceRISE consortium? What are the frictions and difficulties in your discussions? Are they around these sorts of topics? Or are they about something else?
Look, anytime you have multiple stakeholders running a project, it adds complexity, right? You got 3 operators that, sometimes partner in the market. I mean, this is one of my key partners in the market. We're rolling out incredible electronic distilled antennas with a LEO geo capability across airlines. The performance of these airlines is incredible. Many of the airlines partners are going free Wi-Fi with our capabilities, and the same, we compete in other areas, right? So you have competitors, collaborators working together with European Space Agency, with European Commission, with multiple stakeholders. Inherently, it's a complex environment. So we struggle with figuring out, look, what's the priorities, right? Who is on point for what? Who has responsibility to deliver the following areas? And that's how we try to make sure that, we do execute.
You know the expression, too many cooks will spoil the broth? I think there's an equivalent in every other language. Are there too many cooks?
We always fight not to have too many cooks.
Right.
Right? If you
And
don't
who's the head
manage
chef?
you have 3 chefs. Right? You got 3 chefs, and you have several supporting staff that are making sure that the chefs are ready, right? That the chefs have the ingredients.
But what you're saying is who's on the onions, who's on the carrots is the thing that's hard to decide.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what we do.
Yeah.
Right? Within the, so Jean-François and his team has certain responsibilities. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, if I want to add on what Adel is saying, and sorry, probably I'm going to shock a lot of people in the room, but I think we need to realize who do we have as competition. I mean, I think you said it in the introduction. We have as competition Starlink, which is fully vertically integrated. We have as competition another American, which is Amazon, with big financial power, which is fully integrated. And, I'm pretty new in the space sector, so I'm taking the opportunity of my new fresh eyes. I'm comparing what's happening in the space sector with what I saw 20 years ago in the software sector. Prior in the software sector, you had these V-cycles. So when you wanted to, introduce a big IT system in a company, you were doing specs, you were interrogating a few integrators, you were waiting for the offers, negotiating the offers, then you were choosing one, you were contracting, you were waiting 3 years, it was called a tunnel, until you got the software, you were testing the software, you were putting the software in operations, and then eventually 5 years after you had the software, if the project was going on and was successful. And sorry, I'm going to shock a lot of people in the room, but I hear when I arrive in this sector, there is the so-called old space people and the new space people. I think we should learn a lot from the new space companies, and there are a lot in the room. Because those companies are working in agile cycles, in fast and quick circles. And it's not anymore about being perfect. It's not anymore about having the perfect specs, about testing. It's about having, in the software world, we call it the MVP. So a first version, which is not perfect, but which is functional, and which allows you to go fast. And I think you were saying it, I tend to agree with this. I think this is not so much in our European genes. I mean, I'm sorry, nobody's perfect. I'm an engineer. I know what I'm talking about. We love perfection. And you know, I think what we have to learn from the US is this agility. Go get something out which is not perfect. Because
I'm going to have to cut you off because can you see we've got 51 minutes left, but I've got 30
I
minutes
could speak
plus
for an
another
hour.
20 minutes.
But let me finish quickly, and I'll give back the microphone. I think what the end customers are expecting, and I mean, we are selling a lot of OneWeb, and by the way, Adele is right. We are competitors because we are competing on Geo, but we are cooperating on Leo, and we are selling OneWeb. What customers want is quite basic. These people, they want broadband service all across the globe. They want a stable connection, fast connection, megabit per second. They want a cheap as possible UT device and a smaller as possible device. Some have different requirements in the aeronautic world, in the army. But I mean, this is what customers want at the end. The way we are building these services and providing these services is our problem in a way. So that's why, I mean, you were asking, what do we do to get IRIS² in time? This is what we are really discussing now. And this is the way we will be in time in 2029 and 30.
Can I get a quick word from all of you, and maybe just a word on TerraWave, what you think about TerraWave from the origin, which is a possible competitor, right?
Yeah, for sure. A couple of sentences, not a couple of words, right?
You got about 10 seconds, go for it.
10 seconds, okay. Look, it's a proof point that a multi-orbit LEO-MEO architecture makes a lot of sense, and that's what we've been doing with IRIS². So it's a vindication for me.
They stole your idea, you mean?
Huh?
They stole your idea.
They didn't steal our idea. It's a clear idea. Now who's going to execute faster?
Yeah.
Right? The idea of a multi-orbit backhaul with MEO with LEO latency is a clear network design principle.
It sounds super
which
cool.
we all understand super well.
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty scary on one hand, but encouraging that there's validation, and a lot of people were asking and doubting whether or not our architecture makes sense, and now people are beginning to think about it, whether it was the right thing.
Interesting. Luis, we're already over. Well, I'm supposed to ask you to all leave and get some other people in, but can I quickly get your thoughts on TerraWave?
I agree with Adele.
Microphone.
I think this is a confirmation that we were not that wrong. So it's really the combination of the capabilities offered by MEO, I mean, more capacity, and the capabilities offered by LEO, low latency, that we can offer the best service to the users. So the problem, as Adele said, is that we have one more competitor in the business.
Yep.
Which, and we also have the opportunity there to demonstrate that we are able to deliver in time. So, but we need to change the way we do things.
Let's move on. Thank you, I think. Unless, Jean-François, you wanted to give your view on TerraWave?
I think this is copy-paste of IRIS² showing we are going the right way.
That's great. Well, thank you guys. Fantastic panel of CEOs. Good luck in your difficult jobs. Let's move on. Let's give them a round of applause. We're going to move on to our next bunch of speakers. So we're supposed to be talking about industrial integration and system coherence. Let me welcome on stage Benoit Deppe, who's the Chief Executive Officer and founder at Aerospace Lab. Enrique Fraga, the General Manager for Space Systems at GMV, and Elodie Viau, the Senior Vice President of Telecommunications and Navigation at Airbus Defence and Space. Guys, just in case, have you got something to say about the conversation we just had with the previous guests? Have you got anything to
Just
go on?
one sentence.
Because I
When
didn't give you a chance.
when they take too much time to take a decision, we can help to have the decision done.
What do you mean?
At the Commission level,
Right,
it's a system, IRIS²,
yeah,
that we will own,
yeah.
and
You'll push through, you mean? Yeah. I mean, with all due respect, you're not famous for being really fast at taking decisions, though, are you?
that's true. That's true.
Okay. But you're saying with this one you can? All right. Good. So, I mean, it's not meant to be a cheap shot. It was literally the reality. That's what we see. Anyway, Aerospace Lab. I want to hear about that.
Hello.
Hello. It's Belgian.
Yeah, it's Belgian. So
Belgian homegrown. You're in the running to actually make these satellites. What's your situation? What's your evaluation of the situation today? Give us your picture.
I mean, it's above my pay grade. So I'm just invited to the table. So I'm looking and trying to make my mind about this program and where Europe is coming next, because it's quite, as it was said before, it's structural. We need it as Europeans. But let's say that the first 6 years or so have not triggered this wake-up call that, and this is the optimistic part of me in the room, believe that it's coming. So we do see an acceleration on all the steps along the way to make it happen. And I'm very excited that, to be at the table right here, right now, because some decisions are going to be made soon enough, I guess.
We hear a lot, and we have done for years now, but again, the same thing about trying to help the newcomers into the space sector in Europe. What's working, what's not working for you at Aerospace Lab, as far as that's concerned?
I mean, I don't like to look at space as new space versus old space and a different way of doing things. In the end, I mean, laws of physics are the same for everyone. Economic laws are the same for everyone. There is the distribution of good and bad engineers everywhere.
Yeah, checks from governments and the European Commission are not the same for everyone, though.
I mean, it's to be seen. There are precedents. If you look at the story of Galileo, the story of Copernicus and other large programs, it was not always 100% funneled towards incumbents. There have been examples in the recent past where the competition is quite open.
Can I bring in Enrique? Very simple question again. What's working and what's not working for you at the moment? Can you give us your assessment of the picture? What's the situation like for you at the moment?
So, as you know, as GMB, we are not part of IRIS² yet. We are, although part of GovSatcom Hub, as it has been published during the day. So that part is working fine. The hub is ready. The GovSatcom communications are open for the European members. So that's a very good sign to allow the floor for IRIS². Then I see the commitment, I see the political movement, I see how at the beginning, the first 2 years, how fast we did what need to be done at that time. Then obviously if I have to put there what is not working fine still is that we are quite blind, although we are already on the procurements. It is not clear for the whole industry, I guess, what will be the final, although Adele said that it's perfectly designed, the fine. It's not design, okay. So now we need the define and the design in phases. I love that approach that you mentioned in try to iterate. That is something that will work for sure. But we need to realize that we need the system, is essential. So we cannot avoid having IRIS² to happen. But then we need to behave different of what we have been done since now. So I do agree. And I don't like this approach of new space like something different, or the US companies verticalize doing iteration. So we need to do our European way. So we need to be able to iterate innovate in a continuous cycle in a different way, not verticalizing the whole thing and trying to do everything by just one company. We need to have competition. We need to have the supply chain get involved on Iris Square. So hopefully everything will work fine in a while.
Hope is great, but then there's also kind of forecasting, I suppose, and weather forecasting, should we say? Take that metaphor. What are the clouds on the horizon, the storms that you see coming, the possible mistakes where you think, we need to talk about this trap that we're about to fall into? What would you say?
That's a very nice question. I don't know. There are many because
I'm sure you have your moments on a Sunday morning.
And I will remove access to space from the equation, which will be an issue for sure. But someone will manage it. But then also I guess that in our previous experiences that Euro has, but now has been a success, it's so very important that we don't over-specify. And we don't try to do this V cycle with all the requirements at the beginning. And then once we realize that this is not what we want to have, do another huge program, another huge phase with another huge funding that the European Commission will put in the table. So now we need to be more honest with ourselves, don't lie to ourselves, and try to put and being quite strong in our decisions and try to commit both, the operators, the industry, and the institutions that together to have a full corporate approach when we understand each other to have the best solution from the beginning. The best approach, if you want. It's not the design, it's the definition plus how we are going to do it.
Where do you see the friction right now then? Was the friction point like last week, this week?
I don't see frictions.
And no problems, only solutions. Elodie, let's come over to you. Same kind of thing. How do you assess the situation at the moment?
So I think you hear it from our two key customers in the room, where we have to deliver to them timely in order to ensure for them continuity of services. So it's very important as a supplier, as a manufacturer, to really work together, not only alone, but with our supply chain, because when we are talking about constellation, it's really a full ecosystem that need to be put in place. Those complex systems are involving the supplier, the supply chain. This is involving the user terminal, the interconnection between satellites. And this is at key of essence for us to be listening to their need of continuity services. And therefore, that's where we are talking, and I think you have heard a couple of times already, about the spirit of iteration, having a minimum viable product ready, as mentioned by Jean-François, but having the capability to innovate sometime out of cycle in order to have a maturation of those technologies thanks to the support, the financial support of institutions, but then to be on time for them to be able to, from the ground to space, to be ready when they need for their customer, because there is nothing worse for them to be deceiving the customers.
Are you saying, though, that the only way to stick to the timetable that's kind of been politically promised is to have what could be a slightly compromised product?
Indeed, slightly compromised doesn't mean it's better to be there than to not be there with a full, very ready system. Therefore, this compromise is not a compromise, it's to be there at speed. And therefore, of course, we are not going to reduce our ambitions. I think the ambition has been set by ESA and the European Commission very clear of where we want to arrive. The idea is what is the road that we are taking to arrive there? Because in fact, we do not want to miss the train. The competitors are outside, are in the US, are in China. And for us, what is important is to have the system ready as soon as possible.
Enrique, I think you wanted to come in, yes. Is that right? Yep.
Yeah. I guess that this is not the right word to say that we are compromising the design. We are changing the way. So the approach is, we have the final vision. I mean, we have the final vision to what we want of Iris Square, and there are many things in the road. There is the sovereignty, which we need it now. And then there is the competitiveness that we will obviously is a survival also need to all the industry and from Europe. So behaving differently in the sense that we are iterating and being able to incorporate new players, new supply chain, to compete between ourselves to become a better ecosystem. That is what is not compromising, is making it better. And just, I would like to say that I said not over-design, but don't oversimplify the solution, because I've been part in other constellations, and there are not so many, and sometimes there is like, it's not that easy to fly a constellation, and it's not, so we need to do the right step at the right time. So it's not over-design, but not oversimplify the problem. So it's not that easy to make it work.
Can I get your feedback on what you're hearing at the moment? I have other questions, but go on, just tell me what you're...
Just if I may say, we have been working for a bit more than a year on this contract, and we have done already a lot. So regarding the final targets, there are a number of technology which we call low TRL technology. All the development of this low technology have been launched. Okay, important contracts, important development. They are on track.
So the timelines are maintained as far as you're...
The timeline for really the final product, the one that leads to a purely software-defined satellite with very high flexibility and performance. This is where we want to go for IRIS². It's also an important feature for making the payload working both for public sector and private sector. So for instance, when the satellite flies over an area where there's mostly governmental user, it will push all the power for those users and continue orbiting satellite, will go to a place which mostly commercial. That will, the satellite will be reconfigured in space for that. It can be software defined, we can be adapted to 5G release, even release that are not yet defined, even the 6G. This is really the future.
And can you talk me through exactly how this IRIS² constellation comes into service and kind of walk me through it? Because we've already got GovSatcom. How does it kind of start to work? Is there a kind of an on-switch moment?
Yeah, we are now in a very important moment of the program, which is called the Rendezvous 1. It's a program contractual milestone where we are going to decide the exact architecture of the system, the supply chain, and there's a lot of competition, and there's a lot of capability in Europe to build the system. There are different configurations possible, so there are important choices to be made, including in this versioning approach. And it will be fully sovereign system. It will be EU-made, EU-controlled. We don't need to go outside. We can do it in Europe. That's very important to say. And there will be also putting together the schedule, the budget, the investment, and the public sector investment as well. So this is the moment, the key moment for the program. We are targeting end of April for the decision. Okay, so that's really important.
But
now,
the interoperability came up earlier, though. But how does that?
So maybe talking about your first question, the secure connectivity made in Europe, in which phases? How does it work? So it started last week with the GovSatcom hub operation. Yep. And by the way, we have a launch event at 4:30 in the EU pavilion, if you want to go there. This means giving to all member states GovSatcom and MilSatcom capacity, including the 20 plus that today we're using commercial and foreign system for critical military operation. It's a very important moment. This will be complemented in 27 by additional commercial capacity, because the first step is not fully, the coverage is not worldwide, the bandwidth is rather small, so we need to cover the gap in terms of coverage and in terms of capacity. With commercial capacity, we will ask commercial provider to add some security features in their system to qualify, to be able to qualify into GovSatcom. And the third step is IRIS². We are talking about a two-stage IRIS² now, a version in 29. Originally, the plan was 2030 for the full system. So we now are considering a slightly simplified version in 29 and the final target in 2031-32.
Which is why Arianespace is clearing their books in order to be able to launch.
It's a very good business for Arianespace in any case. Yes.
They're very good at their business. But were you to come to some moment where you had a crunch, though, and Arianespace were too good at their business and they had too many customers, including Amazon, would you launch RS2 with SpaceX?
So we have in the Commission we are a bit we have some rules and they are defined in our regulation, and the regulation is very clear. We have to use European launcher unless there is no availability. So yes, we could. And by the way, we have made 2 launches of Galileo using SpaceX.
Yes,
so.
exactly. Guillermo, can I bring you in on this question of timelines as well from ESA's point of view? How do you see it playing out? Talk us through what you expect to happen in the next couple of years.
Yeah, sure. First, I would like to react to the end of the last panel and also some of the questions here.
Yeah.
We are talking about rigidity of the public sector. We are talking about the past programs that have been developed. Most of the people working today in RS2 in the public sector are coming from those programs. They have a very good experience on what happened and how to avoid it. If you look today what happened, we managed to do a ramp-up of the teams. I'm not talking about the public teams, all private companies, and deliver before the end of the year the reviews that were expected, very important ones in terms of requirements and service reviews. So you see that something is changing, it's much more agile. We are not following standard processes, we are more adapting to the need and to the real focus of each of the steps. So we are really evolving in that direction, so much more agile. This is what we are doing today. You are hearing everybody here talking about versioning. So this is something we are pushing a lot. It's not the standard process we are following. We are ourselves proposing this versioning since long. We are seeing the difficulties to have in one shot the final deliveries. We are working with the startups. I think they are seeing us evolving a lot, Commission and ESA. So we are now learning and helping all this process to converge. So in the coming period, what I would be expecting is a very important milestone around the one that Jeremy explained so well. So in the coming months, we need to have a configuration, final one, and concentrate all teams in that one to succeed 2029. We are very delivery oriented, and in our teams now we have delivery managers, just for that, people in charge of making sure things happen in the right time. So in 2 or 3 weeks, months, we need to have a configuration, the governance in place, and the contracts being signed in a way that we launch full speed, all European industry. As Jeremy was saying, full procurement, all critical paths needs to be launched there. The first version, we have to define it, and it's current work. And as Jeremy was saying, will be the focus of all the teams starting April, delivery in 29. There will be a second wave of improvements, a little bit more ambitious for 2031, as Jeremy was mentioning, which will be the last one of it. So we have a very clear path. What we need now is a clear configuration, clear governance, contracts, and then we launch all the teams in that direction. And this is what we need in RS2 now, after all these years thinking about these multi-constellation aspects.
When do we actually start making satellites?
The first launch is...
I mean, start making them.
The first equipment coming for integration of satellites, at least the most critical one, needs to come in 26, 27, early 27, in order to allow integration and launch. This means...
Everybody okay with that?
Listening carefully.
Yeah, and what's in your mind? Share it.
No,
we're amongst friends.
I think what is important to highlight is that, for example, at Airbus, we are already manufacturing constellation. We have just renewed an order from Eutelsat with 440 satellites. So before those constellation was manufactured in the US, we have decided ahead of time to bring back our final assembly line capabilities, the manufacturing site in Europe. We have already a well well-established supply chain that we keep growing up with newcomer. We are building also some partnership that are quite innovative to really develop the future standard. So as Jeremy was mentioning, there is already a lot of innovation that has been started throughout the years. For example, as we are talking about resilient constellation, one way of bringing resiliency is through optical terminals and optical satellite link, or through optical connection from ground to space, or as well with some air terminals like drones or aircraft. So at Airbus, we are developing those building blocks. More than developing, they are operational for some of them with more than 100,000 connections. For example, if I'm talking between GEO and LEO. So those type of features are developed in parallel of being able to currently deliver on time for our customers satellite-defined software. So that's those building blocks are actually getting together. So we are not starting from nothing. But what is important is to not miss a step in the approach that we are taking also on the ground segment and the user terminal for the orchestration of those big systems that we are doing with GMV, for example, or Kratos, just to cite a few partners. So that is important to bring all that together in a coherent way and an organized way in order that we are not putting at risk the continuity of service that we do for the current constellations that we are developing. So that's why having new players together with us is where we need to get our act together in Europe.
Where would you say the kind of technical hurdles are that you see ahead to getting this constellation in orbit on time and on budget?
The key for a constellation is not only the space segment, is together the ground segment, the user terminal, together with the space segment. So a coherent approach of those development between what we can do for the space segment, what is the development of the user segment, the user terminal, as well as the orchestration, need to arrive at the same time. It's pointless to have a very beautiful, sophisticated space segment if your user terminal or ground segment is not arriving at the same time. So there is a kind of like multiple plans that need to get together at the same time. And that's why we are working with SpaceRISE on the various levels to make sure that this is happening. And for us as industrial partners, we will work hand to hand with them to make it happen with the support of the institution.
Benoit, can I bring you in? You're listening to this conversation. What do you see as the obstacles ahead? When are you ready to start bending metal?
I mean, I'm not going to comment on specifics because it's not the place to do so. I will speak with metaphors because I like that. First
Go on,
one,
in Space Conference, you can be specific. Go on.
First one, there were too many cooks in the kitchen. And it has been quite tough to land on something that would reconcile IRR and PVs, which is those guys' languages, with sovereignty, which is what the Commission is pushed for, and industrial supply chain that wants to maximize their own profit as well. So too many cooks, unaligned interest, no one really able to federate all of that. But this, I see since a definite period of time that it's going better. And now we see emerging cooks that should be the real cooks taking the lead.
Who's that then?
Can't answer that, won't answer that. Second metaphor, which is linked to the first one, it's the dog that is moving the tail, not the tail that is moving the dog.
Oh, yeah.
And this is linked to the first problem. And we see now the consortium, the decision-making chain being upside down, back in the right order, unlocking a lot of stuff, and now we have some technical trade-off to be performed to reconcile something that would be investable from the operator's point of view, and that would mean the sovereignty timeline and the pace that is set up by the Commission. But I feel that just now we are able to see clearly the constraints, understand each other's point of view, and crystallize a baseline, and this is fairly new to me. And I'm quite glad to see that happen.
It's kind of crunch time. Where do you see your role? Imagine let's wind ourselves a year forward. What's your company doing in this?
I mean, we will do whatever we're asked to do. There are political...
No, but what would you like to be doing? This is your pitch
Everything,
now.
I
It's your
mean-
elevator time.
We are hungry, so we want to do everything, but it's not our place. So we are ready to answer the call and to bring what we can bring to the table. Before you answer what is that we can bring on the table, we are in competition on the bus. We are doing other stuff in other domain outside of RE Square. We are growing quite fast. You were mentioning the pace of the program and the timeline coming right at us. It's a perfect scenario for us. We are born for this. Like we love to work under pressure. We love really short timelines. My former boss, that may be in the room, told me like under pressure it's diamond or dust, and it's now for RE Square, so it's going to be diamond or dust.
I'm absolutely desperate to open up the floor to questions. We don't have very many minutes, but if anybody wants to ask questions, just stick up your hand. I know Peter Biederselding's going to do that. Are you going to put up your hand? Go on. Anybody, can you give him Guillermo, can you loan him a microphone?
Yes. Okay, just a couple of clarifications. So the RDV1, which is the go, no-go decision, which is going to last 3 or 4 months, that started on January 9th, around there. So you've had 3 weeks to look at it. Is it fair to say, from your points of view, that when you opened up, what did it come in the form of a box of CD-ROM? How did it come? How was this big dossier from Space Rise delivered to you? In what form did it come? Well, must have been a memorable moment, no?
We are getting, on a regular basis, offers on the space, on the ground, on the user terminal. They are being analyzed. We have not the full set. There are still more to be coming in still until this week, actually, on the ground. And it puts the piece together, and we can compare it to the baseline contract that we have, which had the cost model, schedule baseline, performance baseline, and we compare. And we see, and there are competitions, so some comes with better offer than others, and we start to see the puzzle. Okay? This is basically no big science.
It's a big data pack. We are reading all proposals, everything. We are working with Space Rise also. And I insist what we need to find now is the final configuration. This is the initial point of entrance, and we need to find the final configuration that allows to begin launching satellites in 29, which is not obvious. There are versionings. We are talking about different solutions. We need a lot of codes, a lot of equipment already existing for this version. And this is what we are building together, and the things will evolve in the coming weeks until a final solution.
Question, quick question. When you talk about versioning, which is a word I hadn't heard before, so I've learned a new word today, versioning. It basically means minimum viable product, and then you work on the best next. Okay. When you talk about that, you're talking about an introductory product, MVP, available for 2029, and then you'll be working in the latter version in 30 or 31, but this is not 2 separate constellations. You'll just be replenishing the old with the new. Okay. To give people an idea of how fast that is, because that's still really, really fast. The credibility of this stretches the envelope until it just about pops. Elodie, remind us, you got an initial order from Eutelsat sometime in the middle of 2025 for 100 satellites. Maybe you started work then, maybe you didn't. Then you got an order a month or so ago for another 340 satellites. So 340 plus 100 is 440. When are they going to be launched?
Jean-François, you want to take that one, maybe?
Or when ready to be launched? Just to give people, and these are much simpler. These are much simpler satellites.
Starting end of this year.
This year, for the first time, for that block of 100 that was ordered. Okay.
Peter, you may not need to assume it's the same one doing the V1 and the V2.
Yes.
I may not assume.
Interesting. That was a bit of a mic drop. Thank you. We actually need to move over to our final 20-minute panel. You guys stay there. You don't get off the hook just yet. You do, though. Thank you very much. That was fascinating. Let me welcome up on stage Michael Trabia, Chief Executive Officer at Orange Wholesale, and Piotr Veselowski, Director of Space Programs at Deutsche Telekom. Thank you very much. Would you like to just crack on and just give us your feedback on what you've heard so far?
I'm happy to see that everyone is concerned. Because honestly, if we were not concerned, I would not bet on the success.
Right.
Because if you look from a telco perspective, Obviously, satellite is very important for us. It's very important for our customers, and it's more and more important. As you know, the revenues from the telco are expected to double by 2030. Our customers, they are looking for end-to-end solution, and satellite brings another dimension with resilience, connectivity for remote areas. This is true for the fixed broadband. This is also true for the mobile. We did not speak about the mobile as well, which is also important. So there is a huge attention on satellite capabilities, and we see technologies moving very fast. We discuss with all the players. Obviously, we are European. We support your European industry. We support IRISquare. We wish you guys to succeed. But there are also other players, and we have been mentioning them, that are moving very fast, that are very efficient, that have product today in the market, that are gaining market shares every day as we speak. So I welcome, I would say, the mindset that I've heard and I've discussed with many of you earlier today, because we need that wake up in the European industry. We need to avoid fragmentation. Honestly, this is killing us. We need to avoid to be vendor pushed. We need to be customer obsessed and customer focused. Obviously, there is all the government part. I'm not talking about this one. This one is I'm sure is well taken care of. But we need to, if you want the money from our customers and from us to feed the European industry, we need to have the right product at the right time, at the right price.
But you come from telecom, where fragmentation across Europe is also an issue.
Yes, fragmentation is an issue, and we know that at a European level. But I mean, we are not competing with US telcos in France, Belgium, Poland, Germany. We are competing with local players with the same rules. When we talk about satellite, we discuss with European satellite players, we discuss with American satellite players, and others that are coming, by the way. And the question, and we are in competition, and I'm sure that my friend will tell the same thing. We are in competition with each other. We cannot afford not to work with the best solution, because at the end of the day, else our competitor will.
Piotr.
Following the panel before, I'm really happy that we are part of this process, and really happy that we are moving forward. And indeed, the important moment comes now where the system is going to be finally defined. And so we are happy, and together with Orange, working on bringing the industrial scale and the synergies from the telco sector to the IRISWare system. I was looking into the title of the part 3, and it's a little provocative, I have to say. Anchoring telcos in Europe's connectivity ecosystem. We are Europe's connectivity ecosystem. So it is how we can anchor and bring those satellite systems together with the telecommunication world together. Like we have hundreds of millions of customers in Europe already, and you know, everybody is using our service.
What do you want? What if I mean, everybody comes to Brussels asking for something, some kind of contract, deal, money. What are you guys coming here for?
Okay. If I have a shopping list, I would say I would come to the Commission and to ESA and to the European Parliament and ask them about doing something about the fragmentation of the telco market in Europe. Because
how does that help IRISquare?
That will help. I can explain. The European telco market is very fragmented. In each of the countries, 27 countries, you have like 3 or 4 mobile network operators, and then fixed network operators. You might have 4 big, but also like city networks. Like individual cities, they have their own networks. There are so many fiber providers, and the infrastructure is, because of the competition and local regulatory regimes, it's built multiple times. So you have fiber going to the same houses. It's not necessarily efficient. That means as well that the telcos, they don't have individual investment power to invest in such a system like IRIS², if you would change the regime in a way you could free some of the resources that are being invested in the networks. You don't have to have 1 gigabit mobile network in every village. You could use satellite for this. You could free some investments, billions of investment that could be invested in the satellite. So that's what I mean. You know, there is money in the system all over the Europe, but because of the European fragmentation and regulatory regime different in every country, you have auctions for frequencies. You don't have auctions. It's individual per country. There is money, I believe, in the system that could be freed for the investment here in the IRIS² and other infrastructures.
So before I come over here for reaction, Orange completely agree with him about that. Do you? Anything to add?
No, I mean, if you ask me what I would like, if I'm a little bit provocative, I would love to have a European Starlink. Sorry, but yeah.
Most of the journalists got confused and thought this was the European Starlink when it was first announced.
Yes, but that's I mean, to have the same kind of efficiency, time to market, that is what we need. And then obviously we want to integrate this. This will remain, and I think it's important also to mention that compared to the US, the coverage in Europe is far better on the fixed side, on the mobile side. So it's true that the satellite is critical for certain use cases, but is probably less important than in the US, which is both an advantage for us because we have our own network, but that can also be a disadvantage because that means that the potential and the commercial potential for the satellite in Europe is probably a little bit less important than the one in the US.
Does multi-orbital add anything much to you? You mentioned Starlink already. Does multi-orbital add anything?
You know, when we design our network, we have different kind of cells. We have big towers, you can have femtocell, you can have indoor coverage. So I understand the multi-orbital topic. For me, what's really matter at the end of the day is the service I can bring to my customer, not the multi-orbital topic. That does not matter for us, for our customers.
So you would be prepared to buy from anybody? In fact, you don't really care.
I would.
Buying European isn't a factor for you.
Okay, what's important first is to answer to our customer needs. So yes, if the solution we have from other players is more advanced, we will not have any choice because our competitor will work with them. Second, obviously, we want to have a diversity of partners because we don't want to end up in a direct discussion, in the only discussion with one player, Starlink, for instance, with no choice, and at the end of the day, we would be squeezed. And all the telco would be put in competition to have the rights to work with them. So that's something we don't want. So we want a diversity of partners. And third, obviously, we would love to have a European partners, and we work already today. I mean, that's not only a dream. I'm joking and I'm a little bit provocative, but we work a lot with you guys. Work a lot with Eutelsat, SES, Hispasat. Obviously, we have customers, and we have some customers that are very concerned about the security of their data, who doesn't want to work with non-European players. So there is ground for customer demand. So that's very good news. But at the same time, they want solution and services, and they want competitive services. User terminal has been mentioned. It is an issue today when you look at the competitive landscape, for instance.
Would you like to feedback on some of this?
Yeah, I think there are mainly two reasons why the telcos need to be concerned or to be interested, depending how you see on space satellite connectivity. Number one, that a few years ago, we started to have fiber-like links in space, as efficient as fiber. So satellite is not anymore a different product. It comes in the same, if you want, streams of the economy. Second is because, and this is even more recent, satellites is not going to be anymore a niche market with a few millions or even 10 million it's coming in the billion with direct-to-device. This is a direct competition to the MNOs. So we are for both reasons. We need the telco to come in our multi-orbital approach. And by the way, the first orbit is the Earth, and they are taking care of that. And also we need their knowledge of the service provision, the 5G, the way 5G is managed on the ground needs to go in space. This is key. This is what will make a difference for the multi-orbital approach of IRIS².
But you've got them on board already, but how do you keep them? If somebody builds something better, by 2035, these guys might be somewhere else.
It's probably 6G is going to be there. So like that was mentioned also before during the panel. So the innovation cycle in telcos, it's much quicker than it is in space. So the question is how can IRIS², can space segment also keep up? Because on the ground segment, it's easier. Software-defined satellites is one answer, of course, for that, but the life cycle of the satellites is also long. They have to be replaced. Also, mobile networks, we're replacing the technology. And I'm sometimes comparing space industry a little bit with automotive industry. I used to work from Deutsche Telekom with automotive, and I remember we were negotiating a contract with one of big manufacturers in Germany. And we already were introducing 4G network, and they said, okay, we're building 2G modules in our cars. And we said, guys, it's like 2G, and you asking, we guarantee you for 15 years that we're going to keep 2G technology. And then finally they moved to 3G, but we didn't guarantee because we knew that 3G is going to be replaced by 4G, 5G.
What's the parallel to space there then?
And the parallel to space is the development, the development cycle of the product. Because cars, they develop for 5-6 years, they're being produced for another 5-6 years. Yeah. And the electronics not keeping up with the modern world. So I think we need to find a way, and it is difficult also in the space. How can you adapt working with this consumer electronics type of business? Because everybody from us wants to have a new phone every 2 years. And that's probably one of the big challenges in the direct-to-device as well.
We haven't talked about direct-to-device very much. Do we have any questions from the audience?
Where did he fit in IRIS²?
There we go. I was going to ask that one. So thank you, Peter.
So we have a plan to work on a so-called low LEO constellation on top of the one LEO high MEO that the operators here are investing in. And I can't say much on that because there are discussion ongoing on the procurement side, the legal side, and but we are working on it.
Maybe to complement, not giving more information on the D2D, there are 3 layers in IRIS², and we forget the last one very often, which is the low LEO. The low LEO is part of the contract. The objective of the low LEO, the vision we have with the Commission, with Jeremy, is that if we stop to what we are doing, this versioning, we are telling you this stops at the current baseline, in 10 years will be obsolete. It's not going to be solving the problem of no one. So there is the low LEO layer was imagined in order to allow smaller companies or even big companies to develop new services in terms of communications and others that could be later become the standards for the future, D2D being one of them, but there are other potential things we could be doing there. So Jeremy was not mentioning much of this because we are currently in the process of preparing the procurement for all these activities that should be launched within this year. This is the 3rd layer of IRIS² that will be there to complement and to foster future evolutions of the system in the right direction in terms of technology.
We have another question down the front here. Can you just pass down the microphone? No, it's all right. We got one. Marvelous. Thank you. Oh, no.
That's a good start. I fell over.
I had the same thing happen earlier. No fun.
Chris McLaughlin, formerly OneWeb, and now Spin Launch, a small US innovative startup. I'm listening to the panel, I'm listening to the earlier panel, very fascinating. I'm intrigued by whether the 440 OneWebs are going to be beam steerable, and whether they're going to be innovative or whether they're going to be the same as previous, in which case if they're at 9 years old, they're nearly at the 10-year death date. But I'm also intrigued by the integration with 5G, 6G. And I think that we're missing the trick. You know, we've got Link, we've got others that have talked about bringing D to D. We've got our friends at Starlink saying they're doing it as well. Is there a time now for the telecom industry to take over the space industry?
Is it time for you to take over the space industry? That face would suggest no, not just yet.
No.
I'm not aware about any plans in this direction, I have to say, but you have to consider then SATCOM industry originally was coming from the telco industry. So we were the first to launch the satellites. Now those industries drifting apart. And the question is, how can we bring those together? And in those decades that passed, also the telco industry evolved. We are not building all of our networks anymore. So we are more network of networks. We don't necessarily need to have every fiber and every copper line that we're selling to our customers. So, you know, the wholesale, it is a very important part of the business in the telco. And I think the question is, how can we adopt? So like wholesale infrastructure in space that can be used by telcos, and it is easily integrated into telco world. Because you know, bigger telcos, they can allow themselves probably to put more effort into integration, but smaller ones, and we said fragmented market, they want to have easily integrated, so roaming like, let's say, services. That should be probably the answer.
We've got around about 2 minutes left, and as a responsible journalist, I did try and do a bit of research to come up with my questions for this one. But I thought, let's do something trendy and fashionable. Let's ask AI. So I went to everybody in Brussels' favorite AI, Grok, and I said to Grok, I'm a journalist, I've got a panel about this. What would be a question you would ask? So here's Grok's question. Projects like IRIS² promise security enhancements, but with real-world dependencies exposed in Ukraine, where Starlink saved the day, aren't Europe's multi-orbital efforts too slow and bureaucratic to truly compete in high-stakes defense scenarios?
What would be the Grok answer to
Well,
the Grok
he
question?
normally gives you 2 answers, and then you choose which one you prefer.
I can give you an answer. European SATCOM system, a whole bunch of them, are today in Ukraine as well.
Okay, but everybody can choose which answer they like. Guillermo, would you like to have a go at that one? Basically saying that, yeah, when it comes to defense, we're not fast enough.
I think, I mean, at the beginning of this panel, we had already the information that we are going to have services now, in 27 a second step, and 29 a third step. Development system, I mean, look back to what happened to Starlink and the others. We are developing a system that will be available now already in the first step, and will be completed in a serious version in less than 3-4 years. I think this is quite efficient. I also recall that this system is going to be developed according to standards of security largely beyond the ones that are being used today by other systems, which is basically what we need. So I am not so sure. We are always talking about bureaucracy. You see, we are already thinking on the future evolutions. I am not sure this is today the case, at least for IRIS².
Do you think that Grok may have some prejudices programmed into him?
Well, I think there is a lot of information in the internet in the same direction that we should maybe correct little by little.
Twitter a lot, yeah. Thank you very much. It's been a fascinating conversation. We run out of time. It's been absolutely great. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Just a quick note that